All right, welcome back to another episode of The Aspiring VC. Your host, Matt Snow with Mass Ventures here. I have the pleasure of talking to James Barlia at Revolution. But before we talk about business or venture, let's talk coffee. Dunkin' or Starbucks? What is your pick, man?
Yeah, so I actually don't drink coffee. Um, so I'm gonna go with neither. I actually more of just a water guy. I just kind of wake up and start crushing water. But if I had to have a take on the coffee, I'd say that Dunkin' coffee is watered down, and I know that's gonna rub you the wrong way. But I guess I'd probably have to go with Starbucks.
Fair enough. Although I know you do like your sausage, egg, and cheese sandwiches. So
I do. Yeah, sausage, egg, and cheese from Dunks is a staple.
totally. So, all right, for the listeners that don't know, give them a 2 minute summary. Who are you? What firm are you at? What's your role?
Yeah, so I'm James Barlia. I work for Revolution's Rise of the Rest seed fund. I'm an associate on the investment team there. I joined last May. Revolution is a venture capital firm that's based in Washington, D.C. We were founded by Steve Case, so the former founder and CEO of AOL, about 16 years ago. We have 2 billion in assets under management across 3 institutional fund strategies. So we have a growth equity fund, a ventures fund, and a seed fund. Um, and uh, and I'm on the seed fund team. I'm primarily responsible for sourcing, evaluating all the companies that we're potentially going to invest in, supporting the portfolio companies as they scale, and then I kind of call it like fund and firm operations, kind of all the other stuff, quarterly reports, annual meeting, um, all that good stuff that needs to happen to make sure a fund is moving in the right direction. And I'm happy to go more in depth on Revolution, Rise of the Rest, but I'll let you guide me.
No, man, look, that was a great summary. It sounds like you've been pitching to LPs, maybe. So you've got the kind of overview down.
Not quite. But I know what LPs want to hear, I think.
Yeah. Well, all right, let's dive in more. Can you talk about the methodology and like the thought process on Rise of the Rest?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess so. What we do in one sentence at Rise of the Rest is we invest in seed stage companies that are headquartered outside of Silicon Valley, New York City, Boston. You can really track that back all the way to Steve starting AOL in Washington D.C. And having to go to Chicago and Canada to raise venture capital. And so today that problem basically still persists. 75% of VC dollars annually go to California, New York City, and Boston. And a lot of those dollars are concentrated, California, New York, and Massachusetts. And then a lot of those dollars are concentrated into those 3 cities. And so what we want to do is really bridge the gap in funding, and level the playing field and elevate great entrepreneurs that are starting, great, the next great successes in companies that are headquartered outside of those cities, and elevate them and provide them capital and resources to scale and to succeed. And so in practice, we're writing checks that are between 250K and $1 million into primarily like first institutional financings. But I think the seed stage is pretty fragmented. So we can do anything from your traditional pre-seed round all the way to a Series A. We're typically not leading with our first check and trying just to be super collaborative co-investors and super helpful and value add to not only to the founders in the company, but also just to the syndicate as a whole. And then I think the last piece that I'd add to it is that we're sector agnostic, and so we invest in tech companies, and there are very very few sectors that we won't touch. There's some sectors that are probably longer putts for us, like life sciences or medical devices or pure hardware. But for the most part, we've invested in direct to consumer women's apparel companies. We're invested in the largest tech enabled greenhouse in the U.S. We can kind of run the gamut of what we're able to do.
And from what I've seen, like it seems like the firm also has, although geography diversity is the main focus, there's also kind of a focus on diverse founders, both like as the firm overall and from Rise of the Rest. Is that like accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally what we want to do is level the playing field. And if you look at the statistics, like, under Black and brown founders, I guess BIPOC founders as a whole are just super underfunded. And so, what we try to do as a fund, I think it's like our mission to, again, just to level the playing field. And so, we're looking for great companies and great founders. And obviously they come from everywhere and anywhere and diverse backgrounds, whether that be race, ethnicity, geographic location.
Totally. And obviously you kind of landed in this really interesting firm, but there's kind of a whole story to you and how you got here. And for the listeners that don't know, we worked together at Greenspring.
We were roommates.
To each other. We were roommates.
Yeah, we had desks next to each other. We lived 5 feet from each other.
So, it's funny for me to be asking you this question, but I like all the way back to like the first internship. Do you want to explain how did you get
Yeah,
there?
yeah, for sure. And just for whomever is listening, Matt and or I call him Snow. So Snow and I had probably out of the 24 hours of, the 2 years that we lived together, or 365 days, we spent pretty much every day, every moment together since we lived together. Occasionally we wouldn't drive together to the office. So we get, a 30-minute commute to and from by ourselves, but we were pretty much next to each other all the time, which was awesome. So I guess my story, the way it goes is, so when I was in high school, I tried to start a toothpaste company. That's kind of like the genesis of it. It was really like a business model competition that was part of a class that was called the Entrepreneurship Capstone class that my high school launched. And I was in kind of the first class my senior year. So I tried to start a toothpaste company, ended up winning a Shark Tank style pitch competition. It was a $10,000 award. And I was kind of like, all right, let me see what I can do with this. Like, I'll try to run with it. And so spent, a few years into school trying to get that airlifted off the ground and never really got it there. But tried to raise some angel money along the way because there's formulas and manufacturing and a lot of stuff that goes into actually making the toothpaste before you can sell it. And so I met a bunch of angel investors through that experience and basically just became enamored with everything early stage entrepreneurship and fascinated with what they were doing, and wanted to find a way that I could basically build a career doing that and elevating others. And so after that experience, everyone kind of at school is trying to go the investment banking route or whatever your respective school or business school is kind of forcing you to do. And one, I didn't have the grades for that. And two, I thought that, if there was anything that I could do to start working in the, venture industry, I'd basically do it. And so then I got lucky and I basically landed an internship at 1776 Ventures, which was a seed stage firm in Washington, D.C., investing in regulated industries that was kind of layered on top of an accelerator. So I did that for one summer, really enjoyed. I think what I really enjoyed most from that experience was just like sitting shoulder to shoulder with entrepreneurs and one, learning what venture really was. I didn't do a whole lot. I got a lot of coffees. I made a lot of copies, but did a little bit of market research and a little bit of diligence here and there. But just like sitting next to the entrepreneurs and understanding, how much they give to their companies and how much, time and resources they dedicate to it and just how passionate they were. And so really want to surround myself with people like that. And so the following summer, I interned at a firm called Blue Venture Investors, which is another seed stage venture capital firm here in Washington, D.C. You'll notice there's a theme. They primarily invest in cybersecurity companies, but can pretty much do anything. And so when I was there, I was really granted full autonomy to basically just go source and go run diligence processes. And it was a lot of learning by doing, which I think was great for me. And then graduated from Tulane in 2018. And that's when I met Matt. I think it was a cold LinkedIn DM, maybe it was a setup from our head of HR. I honestly can't remember how we like first interacted, but then worked at Greenspring, which is a fund of funds in Baltimore. I think they have like 12 billion in assets under management right now. So their core business model is to invest in funds, monitor the top performing companies in those funds, and then lead the growth rounds of those top performing companies. And so was there for a few years, kind of focused on investing in seed stage venture capital funds, impact focused venture capital funds, and then obviously doing the growth stage investing as well as some secondary investing at both the company level and the LP level. And I think it was really when I was there that I kind of started to see like the rise of the rest story play out. All the data that we really had pointed to the fact that, the majority of the country is like underfunded relative to San Francisco and New York and Boston. And even Greenspring had some really solid data points in that, two of their best performing investments ever were Chewy, which I think is based in St. Petersburg, and Exact Target, which is based in Indianapolis. And so, I had all this information at my fingertips and was like, something needs to be done about this. Like I want to do venture a little bit differently. And I'm from Washington, D.C., and I've known of Revolution forever. And I really wanted to kind of support the rise of the rest thesis and mission. And then again, I kind of just got lucky, and they were looking to bring on someone on the investment team since an associate was going off to business school. And stars aligned, and I was kind of starting to recruit. And so my 2 years, I think I was like, a week shy of 2 years or something at Greenspring, and transitioned over to Rise of the Rest in May of 2020. And it's been absolutely terrific.
It's awesome, man. I think you put a good story, good narrative together on it. What do you like when you look back at each internship that you got, and then the jobs too, like for the people that are listening that are either like early in their career or like in college trying to break in, what would you recommend?
Yeah. So first, I hate the phrase break into venture capital. Like it like rubs me, it just irks me, because I think the fact that that's even a phrase speaks to like the nature of the industry, and that it's super closed off. And I'd like to change that. I don't know what the phrase needs to be, but like there needs to be more avenues to start working or building a career in venture capital, I think is maybe a better way to phrase it. But so the question was, sorry, I got all fired up. The question was any advice to people that are trying to start a career in venture?
And I think sometimes it's non-obvious, like how to network and how to go after these things and make connections. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think my number one piece of advice is just like, you just have to be willing to put yourself out there and like accept failure and like accept rejection. Like it is what it is. And like the most practical advice that I'd have to you is like, find a target list of firms or individuals that you're like interested in, like try to find their email or reach out to them on LinkedIn and just try to get 15 minutes of their time, and then try to be, add value to them. So understand what their investment criteria or their investment strategy is. When you're on the phone with them, obviously learn about what it is that they do and their background, and what the fund strategy is. And then, maybe follow up with, 3 to 5 companies that you think might be interesting to them. So basically like trying to source deals for other, or for investors. But if you're not even doing that, like just be willing to reach out cold to people. I still do it. That's still how I meet people, like multiple times a week. I reach out to people that are analysts and associates at other firms cold on LinkedIn. I find their emails on PitchBook, and I hit them up. Like it's a huge part of the industry is, being willing to put yourself out there. And then I think when you start working, whether it's in venture or any other industry, like just be fearless about whatever you do. Like you're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes. Like that's fine. Everyone messes up. And there's a lot of, I've noticed at like the entry level, there's a lot of anxiety about doing something wrong, when in reality, no one really expects anything from you. Like they basically expect you to know nothing in your first role or first few roles. So just be willing to make mistakes, like try things out. After you make the mistakes, obviously learn from them, and take like extreme ownership over the mistake that you've made. But like, don't be worried about messing up, or don't be worried about doing something the right way or the wrong way. Like just, try to figure it out and get it done. And just be fearless about basically whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome answer, man. And I think it's pretty clear what drove you into this industry, but it seems that you, definitely enjoy this. This is probably what you'll remain to do for quite a while. So what keeps you interested and excited and involved in venture capital?
Yeah. Also, just an aside, I want to interview you after you've done all of, not this at the end of this episode. Like, I feel like you have your own story to share and like everything, and you're interviewing a bunch of analysts, associates, and GPs and principals, whatever. Like when you're done with your first wave of interviews, let me know, because I think it'd be pretty fun to interview you.
Totally.
You can just flip me your questions or whatever, and I'll fire them off. I think that'd be really fun. So I guess what continues to motivate me is just like the impact that we can have as investors on early stage companies. Is what really motivates me. And I think what gets lost a lot, especially recently with like social media and everything, is like what I really want to do in life is just like help other people, like be a good person and help other people. And I think like at its core, that's kind of really what you're doing in venture capital, is like we're just helping other people achieve what they want to achieve. And we're obviously taking like a pretty critical lens to that, or to how we, evaluate what it is that they actually want to achieve. But like at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. So that's like what keeps me motivated. And that's why I get excited to wake up and like, quote, go to work, because in reality, a lot of what I'm doing is just talking to other people and like hearing about what motivates them, or like what they want to build their business into, or what they're excited about investing in. And then what I try to do is just help them, like try to source deals for them, or, provide them capital to build that sales team, and then scale their revenue from $1 million in ARR to 5 million in ARR. And then, with that goes uptick in valuation. So I think that's like what my motivating factor is just helping others. And like, at the end of the day, I really just want to be like a good person. And I want people to view me as like a good dude that you enjoy being around and is helpful. And so, yeah, I think long-winded answer, but that's what keeps me going.
Totally, man. And I think it's pretty obvious with Raz the Rest and your personal story that you're very passionate about geos and personal backgrounds being kind of given the opportunity that maybe they aren't, evenly given opportunities to pursue with capital. But what else like of impact do you want to see in venture? And I don't know, maybe how do you think about like providing generational wealth to some of these underserved areas and, founders as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'd like to change about venture is like the access that just everyone has to it. Like there are great, like I've said, like there are great companies. There are great Black and brown founders. There are great companies that are headquartered in Oklahoma City and Wichita and Northwest Arkansas. I think a lot of time investors aren't really looking for them. And I'll wholeheartedly admit, like my personal pipeline is not as diverse as it needs to be, or as it should be, as it needs to be. And so, I think like what I'd like to see change is just the intentionality around people, again, like the intentionality around people helping other people. Right. And like, there's, a white male founder from Stanford is going to have a lot more, options or opportunities to raise venture capital than someone not a white male from Stanford, to be totally frank. And so like just like the, I guess, intentionality around helping other people. And then what we do at Rise of the Rest, I think a lot of it evolves around like building generational wealth in underserved communities. And so again, like just finding those companies in those underserved communities, supporting them, helping them scale. And then ultimately, like what a lot of these cities need is like one kind of like marquee exit, like one tentpole company that's really going to like pull them up. And then, you see a company exit or even just get valued at, hire a bunch of people, get valued at, 100, 200, $500 million, and then start to attract great talent. And then all of a sudden you kind of see ecosystems get spun up around that. And so, that's a lot of what we do. And then what's great about it is after companies kind of exit and like, shipped in Birmingham, like a lot of the capital just gets redeployed into those ecosystems. And so what we like to do is partner with groups that are really doing that.
And, I know that when you were at Greenspring, you're basically the junior lead on the micro fund of funds. So you spent a lot of time looking at emerging managers. You led this huge fund restructuring for Altos. I
didn't lead it. I supported it, but I'll take it.
Whatever. You sat on the board for Rocket Lab, really fascinating company. So like, I don't know, how do you think about what's going on with emerging micro VC funds? How do you think about your experience, like being a board observer, looking at these huge secondary transactions? I don't know, maybe even the Reg CF stuff that's going on.
Yeah. So I guess I'll stop. I wasn't on the board of Rocket Lab. Whoever's listening to this, I attended board meetings regularly. But I mean, I think so. I'll hit on what's happening with emerging managers, and then I guess how to capitalize on attending board meetings or whatever. I guess what's happening. So I love that there's more opportunity and access for emerging managers. I think emerging managers are what drives a lot of like the innovation economy, because they're the ones that are like taking risks at the earliest stages. And they're also ones that are oftentimes most connected to early stage companies. And so they're the ones that are supporting it and really rolling their sleeves up and providing like resources and networks and just dedicating their time to supporting companies at the earliest stage, which is really what they need, in addition to capital. But it's also like that kind of like that value add post investment support. I will say that it's getting really noisy at the earliest stage of venture. Like, and I noticed that at Greenspring, like if you look at a market map of what micro funds, 200 million and under look like in 2010, what they look like in 2021, like it's insane. It's ridiculous, the explosion that we've seen. And I think generally it's a good thing, but like competition is a good thing, but it also inflates valuations. And like, I don't know the market, like what the emerging manager micro fund market is going to look like in 3 to 5 years. But if I were to guess, I'm not sure if consolidation is the right word, but there's going to be I'd imagine there's some type of pullback, because I'm not sure how much more specialized funds can get. And that's what we really noticed when I was investing in them at Greenspring, is like specialization was absolutely everything. Like funds are becoming hyper verticalized and focusing on like one specific thing, whether it be like pet healthcare or, sports tech or whatever. But I think it's a good thing. And I think it's good for venture. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but those are just rambles, some rambling thoughts. And then being a board observer in secondary transactions, like I love secondaries. I think they're infinitely scalable across venture as a whole, anything from a seed stage company to a pre-IPO company can, like a secondary could exist for them. And it's fantastic because especially for employees, like you never know what stage someone is in their life, whether they're like about to have a child or about to put their kids through college. Like liquidity events are good. So I think secondaries are phenomenal. I think they're like providing more access to the venture industry, which is great. And then touching on being a board observer, yeah, that was cool. Like being a board observer at Rocket Lab was dope. Not gonna lie. Peter Beck and that team knows what they are doing. And I think I was able to be there for a really cool time where they were, effectively trying to launch a rocket like once a month. And then we were also having board meetings like almost once a month, and being able to, I was a total fly on the wall. I don't think I ever said anything. But just being a part of a company that is like really transforming or like bringing business to space, which is crazy to think about, was so fascinating. And the people that were around the table, from Bessemer, from Khosla, from Greenspring, I basically just tried to be a sponge and absorb all of that and absorb all the key learnings and take notes on the questions that, David Cowan was asking. And that was a really cool experience. And I'm very grateful that I had that.
Totally, man. And like now at Revolution, how do you think about, I spend a lot of time trying to educate people on origin stories and how to, get a job in the industry, but how do you think about like driving deals through and trying to get similar opportunities, where you're at now?
You mean like how in our process, how do we get deals across the finish line?
Like, you're sourcing deals, but you want to push them across the finish line, see if they're the right target for an investment, and then, get that more.
Yeah. So, I'm going to be totally candid. Like building conviction is hard, especially coming from what we were doing at Greenspring and transitioning into the seed stage. It's hard. There's a lot of transferable things that we learned, but it's totally different. Investing in a venture capital fund and then a company that has 10 million in trailing 12-month revenue and is on a $25 million run rate, like, and has financials that you can look at, is just like a fundamentally different diligence process than what we're doing now at the seed stage. And so it's something that I struggled with. It's something that I, continue to struggle with, but I think I've learned from basically every company that I've like evaluated, and seeing the deals that really crossed the finish line at first, and like understanding what the partners wanted to look for, or really what our team, because we're a small team. So like what everyone else on the team looks for in a company and like what they get excited about, whether that be, the founder and the team that they've assembled around them, whether that be, just like a big market and like a really disruptive product, disruptive and like defensible product, if they have really solid customers or some really nice growth, those are all things that we would get excited about. But I think something that I struggled with was like after understanding what the business does from a high level, like now what? Okay, like I can explain to you what the business does and like why I'm excited on the surface level, but then diving deep and like trying to understand the unit economics or like LTV to CAC, kind of all that good stuff. And so, it just takes time, and like talk to customers, talk to multiple people on a team, talk to industry experts, and get as many opinions as you possibly can, and then try to frame why it'd be a good investment. So again, I'm not entirely sure that I answered your question there, but it takes time to learn how to build conviction.
Totally. Yeah, no, and I think your input is super helpful. I know I throw a lot out in my questions, so
yeah, no worries.
But yeah, if you're ready, we can move into some rapid fire ones.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So who's been one of your most important mentors?
Yeah. I mean, the easiest cop outs are like my mom and my dad, but specific to venture, but like that's my answer. But like specific to venture or specific to the industry that we're in, I'd say three people. One is Mark Starin, who was my teacher for that business model competition and like really piqued my interest for what venture is. I think Katie Kuehl, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, but she was the associate that I worked for when I was at 1776, and she's just been a really good friend to me. And like, if I ever have questions about anything, I can, be totally transparent and candid with her. So I appreciate that. And then I think Stephen and Anthony were, I think they pushed us, but it was a good thing. And they like taught us how to be not just good investors, but just like good employees and hard workers, and taught us really like what it meant to just to figure it out. So that was a long list, but the cool thing is that I'm getting to meet people that I still can consider to be my mentors now. You know what I mean? Like I could meet someone tomorrow and just click with him or her and start talking to them frequently. So that's the cool part about venture. There's a lot of people that are willing to help out.
Totally, man. And, outside of Revolution, whether it's a firm or like a specific GP, what's another, venture group that you really like?
So I like firms that put out really good content because I like reading what they have to say. So like NFX and Bessemer put out phenomenal content constantly. Obviously, Andreessen puts out great content. Specific to investors, I was raised as a B2B SaaS investor. So like Jason Lemkin, Tomas from Redpoint, they're definitely people that I look up to, especially as it relates to like following their presence across social and, their thought leadership, I think is stuff that I always kind of look to.
Totally, man. And when you're looking at a company, what are the characteristics about a startup that get you excited about potentially investing?
Yeah, I think I maybe touched on this in one of my previous answers, but just like a rock star founder that is enthusiastic about what they're doing and has proven their ability to like build a really solid team around them. Big enough market, and a market where there's white space. A really solid product that not only is better than others, but has something that is defensible about it. A clear and obvious business model that scales over time. Trying to like repeatable sales processes. I think I generally look to go to market a lot when evaluating companies, and so like what the sales process really looks like. I want to understand what the competitive set looks like. So if there's like an actual white space for a company to compete, and like how they've been capitalizing on it, is exciting. And who their customers are, what their traction looks like, how they've been growing, how they're acquiring the users. I think I just said everything, but like that's what I look at.
Yeah, man. No, I think it's all good stuff. When you're reading, I guess both for like venture stuff and then just personally, like what are some of the podcasts, blogs, or favorite books? Like what is some of your favorite content to read?
I mean, like I said, blogs, it's like I just read blogs that other firms put out. Um, and I usually find them on Twitter. So like, the standard ones. But then obviously I always try to stay apprised on what's happening in the market. So like TechCrunch, VentureBeat, Bloomberg, even all the all the newsletters like Pro Rata, Term Sheet, Strictly VC. I actually don't really listen to podcasts now because I don't commute. And so I just feel like I can't listen to podcasts and work because it's just too many voices in my head. So I can't do it. But when I read, I like pretty much exclusively read nonfiction. So some recent books that I've read, hold on, let me pull up my list, is I recently read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. I actually recently read 2 books by Jocko Willink. So it was, what is it? The Dichotomy of Leadership. And I think it wasn't Extreme Ownership, but it was another one. I recently read The Courage to be Disliked, which is, I kind of like psychology books as well. So The Courage to be Disliked, I think, was an interesting one. I read 11 Rings relatively recently by Phil Jackson. And then there's a handful of books that are like on my reading list. I want to read Grants. I want to read Battleground by H.R. McMaster. I want to read something about Theo Roosevelt. I don't know. I also recently read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you're into like psychology, I think that's a good one.
Totally. That is the classic.
It's the classic. Yeah. I like psychology books. I don't know why.
Yeah, man. It's good stuff. I mean, do you watch like, like dramas or thrillers? Like, do you like that category too for like movies?
I mean, I like comedy, as you know, like comedies, just anything that'll make me laugh. And I think something about me is I'll find something funny in every movie, and pretty much everything, any show, any movie, like I'll be able to find something funny in. Blessing and a curse. I think that's probably the same with life. I can pretty much laugh at anything. Blessing and a curse. But yeah, I've been trying to get into Sopranos recently. Like I haven't quite been able to sink my teeth in, but like that's the show that I really, really want to watch. I watched Succession in like 2 days earlier in quarantine, and I can't wait for that to come back. So I guess, yeah, drama, thrillers, all the classics. Like every show that most people say that they've watched, I've probably tried to watch it. I don't know. It takes a lot for me to watch TV. I don't finish series often. So that's why I was excited about Succession.
Same with movies. I think we could start a movie by
yeah, it doesn't go well. It takes a lot for something to hold my attention.
Totally. So, all right.
Documentaries too. I feel like we'd watch a ton of documentaries.
Big documentary fan.
Yeah.
All right. Took this question from Tim Ferriss. Really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So the purchase of like $100 or a couple $100 has had an outsized impact of happiness or utility in your life.
Wow. My golf clubs.
Nice. Okay. Hey, tell us more.
Totally my golf clubs. I mean, I don't really purchase that much. I mean, like my dad, I guess, is like another one. I don't really buy a whole lot of stuff. Like I definitely have started indulging in retail therapy, which is fun and nice, nice to do. But yeah, I don't really buy a whole lot of things, like of knickknacks, I guess you could say. But yeah, my golf clubs. I mean, I love playing golf, and it's just like it's very peaceful. I like being outside. I like being with my friends. And had I not purchased my golf clubs, then I honestly don't know what I would do on the weekends. So that's definitely one that I can look to.
Yeah, man.
What's yours? Bitcoin?
Mine is there's a mini guitar tube amplifier. So there's a category of guitar amps that you remember the amp that I had.
Yeah, of course.
Solid state amps do not sound nearly as good as these tube amps, but they're usually wicked heavy, wicked expensive, hard to move. And so I have that lunchbox amp that's like the size of an iPhone.
Yeah, I remember that. Or no, I feel like you had or maybe my roommate also, my newer roommate plays guitar as well. And like he has a guitar and like a really small amp that we've messed around with a few times.
It's totally clutch. But dude, I've had people say, a lot of people say AirPods, stereotypically.
Mm.
People talk about bikes, exercise equipment.
Yeah.
We talked about a high quality backpack. It's interesting to find what
it's interesting. I mean, like utility is, you can find utility in anything. So that's it's a good question.
Totally. But yeah, I'm jealous, man. You started golf, very early on. You have the benefit of actually learning a sport that you can play throughout the rest of your life, unlike, baseball. So,
well, I tried baseball. So actually what happened was when I was in 7th grade, I tried out for a travel baseball team with my friend, with like my best friend, and he made it and I didn't. And it was kind of like at the point where you either have to be good at baseball. It wasn't like the participation thing. It was like, you're going to either be good at baseball and play travel baseball, or you're not, and you're not going to play baseball. So I got cut and I was like, damn, all right, well, like now what am I going to do? Cause I went to high school, or whatever, 2 years later, and you have to have sports credit. So I played soccer in the fall, winter. Okay, actually, so this is what happened. So winter, I went and tried out for JV basketball, and I got cut from that too. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? Like, I need a credit. Like, I have no clue what I'm going to do. So I just didn't do anything that winter. And I had a friend that like actually grew up playing golf, and like playing golf, like competitive golf, and he was like 8 to 12 to whatever, like playing tournaments. And he was like, dude, just play golf. Like, I know you've played a couple times. You're probably fine. And I wasn't fine, but thankfully, another one of my friends' dads was the coach. So they let me like get the credit and play and practice with the team every day. So that was my freshman year. And then I basically just fell in love with it and like stayed playing golf for the rest of until now. So like, I guess thanks to whoever the baseball coach was in 7th grade that cut me, and the JV basketball coach that cut me.
Well,
else I wouldn't be playing.
Funny enough, I had the luxury of getting squeezed into the team when I wasn't actually good enough to be playing travel baseball. And so kind of learned how to be funny. Was you have double headers and it's a long, weekends of games. And I'm sitting there on the bench, scoring all the runs on the book. And, you got to figure out how to make some friends in that situation. So that's where I, learned my game.
That's where the charisma came from.
That's where it came out of. So it helps to get benched sometimes. But
yeah, totally.
All right, where can people find you? Twitter, LinkedIn, everything else.
Yeah, LinkedIn is my name. Twitter is my name. I haven't been very active on social recently. I kind of took a little bit of a hiatus in this year, so I haven't really been on. I go on Instagram like once a week. I go on Twitter like once a day, maybe. I'm on TikTok for like hours a day though, but I deleted everything from my phone. So I'm only on my computer, obviously, except for TikTok. But yeah, Twitter is my name. You can DM me, LinkedIn, DM me. My email is my first name dot my last name at revolution.com. You can email me.
Well, Barlia, really appreciate the time today. Pretty funny to be doing this interview.
Likewise.
And definitely, want to do it again in the future, man.
Yeah, for sure. Remember me when the podcast blows up, and let me know when you want to be interviewed, because that'd be cool.
Yeah, dude, full option there. So we'll let you know, man.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Looking to innovate, invent, and disrupt? We're your partner to fuel your growth. Contact us to learn more.